Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. Folks, just as I have said to you, I don't know how many times, Trump's policies are targeting working black families. In fact, you could say Trump's policies are pummeling black families, punishing black families, hammering black families. It's sad to see. It's sad to look across news outlets, both in main media, social media, the phone calls we get into our law office, all of this, personal friends of mine, family members of mine, who are all being pummeled from these anti-black policies coming from the Trump administration. Now, why am I not surprised? I'm not surprised because I read Project 2025. I read it. And you shouldn't be surprised if you have been listening to and watching the videos because I made multiple videos. I started making videos on Project 2025 back in 2023, before they even put the mandate out. I started then. I saw how ominous Project 2025 was a year and a half ago. And I started trying to warn you, do not vote for this. If you vote for Trump, you're voting for Project 2025. And it just plainly in the manual, Project 2025 plainly targets race, civil rights, the firing of federal employees, which disproportionately impact our community, education, which disproportionately impact our children, social net programs, crime, and other areas that tend to disparately punish our community. I made video after video after video. And now it's come to pass because some of you didn't believe me when I started saying this, over 2 million blacks voted for this. You say, well, how do you say they voted for this? Because Project 2025 was online for anybody and everybody to read. And so if someone voted without being aware and informed about Project 2025, especially people like me making videos to warn them, then you help vote this in. And why do I make such a big deal out of this? Because we're going to have other opportunities to vote, I pray. And you can't make the same mistake. You can't listen to pro-black imposters who said that Project 2025 is nothing. It's a hoax. I remember multiple people coming over to our channel saying I was fear-mongering. You're fear-mongering. You're fear-mongering. We're not afraid of Trump. We're not afraid. You're fear-mongering. You're fear-mongering. Multiple people coming over to our channel with that foolishness. And I knew what was in Project 2025. And sadly and unfortunately, many people listen to the pro-black imposters and black conservatives, and just many more African Americans just simply don't vote. They simply just don't see the connection between their daily lives and who's in office on both the federal, state, and local levels. We got to change all of that. We got to change every bit of that. And so Project 2025 here recently led the big, ugly bill. I started to call it Big Brutal Bill, and that's what it is, a big, ugly, brutal bill. Definitely not beautiful. Project 2025 laid the framework for all of that. And now it is the guiding principle behind this government shutdown. And that's going to be another layer of pain for the African American community if this doesn't stop soon. And some of you have said, well, you know, Mr. Corbett, it's just so hard hearing this. And some of them tone me out. Some stopped listening. Well, listen, because you stopped listening to the truth, and that's what the issue is, folks don't want the truth. The truth has fallen in the streets. Folks don't want to hear the truth anymore. It's like they put their hands up to their ears. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Well, that doesn't make it go away, folks. That doesn't make it go away. Sticking your head in the sand, listening to folks who are not telling you the truth, or spending a lot of time listening to people whose only goal is to entertain you, that's counterproductive for you. Because if you don't know what's coming, then you don't know how to prepare for it. If you don't know a bad, harmful thing is coming and because you're afraid to hear it, you don't want to hear it, then you don't know how to cover yourself. And that's not fear-mongering. I tried to explain to some of these foolish people that me telling them what was in Project 2025 was not fear-mongering. It was to inform people so that they would, first and foremost, not vote this in, and second of all, prepare for it. Now, the latest example of all of this is the government shutdown. And it's going to continue, in fact, heighten the punishment that black families are feeling now in two ways if it doesn't end. Number one, the Affordable Care Act. The premiums are scheduled to go up really, really, really soon. I mean, in a big way, huge way. Some calculations show that the average family's premium per month will go up $1,200, $1,300, $1,400. And there are about 4 million African-American people whose health insurance comes through the Affordable Care Act. And that's what they're facing. And so the Democrats are pushing back because the Trump administration and the GOP will not just agree to extend the benefits to help keep those premiums low. And the other thing here is SNAP benefits. SNAP recipients. If this thing doesn't end soon, if the Trump administration doesn't do the right thing, SNAP recipients will not get those EBT cards. And that will mean a lot of people going hungry. And a whole lot of those people are African American people. Let me take you to another screen. I want to read an article and share some information with you to show you how bad this could get. So this beautiful family here is the type of family that would be hit hardest if those EBT cards are not sent out, if the SNAP benefits are not sent out. All right, and here's how I know this. Because about 25% of all SNAP households are headed by a non-Hispanic black person. Okay, that's the CBPP. Then we read among children aged 0 to 17 in 2021, 45% of non-Hispanic black children receive SNAP benefits. That's the Census Bureau. 45%, almost half of black children that you see out in the country, almost half of them get SNAP. So this could really further hammer our community. Participation by race, it reads. In one large sample, about 26.6% of black-headed households participated in SNAP compared to 21.0% of Hispanics and 16.4% of white households. So we're disproportionately on SNAP. So it's an issue. And this is on top of what our community is already experiencing from Project 2025 anti-Black policies. Right? I have not even thrown in a whole lot of stuff that we are currently dealing with, from the National Guard in many of our communities, locking up Blacks disproportionately, to the non-enforcement of civil rights when our civil rights are violated. I mean, just layer after layer after layer of Black trauma and pain as a result of the second Trump administration. So the Washington Post, in a very recent article, writes, millions of Americans are at risk of losing food stamp benefits before the end of this month if the government shutdown continues. Officials in several states have warned, signaling further financial stress for lower income families already facing slashed federal food program budgets and rising food costs. And don't make the assumption that just because a family is a low-income family, that family is not working. Many of those families are working people every day. They get out and go to work. They just work on jobs that don't pay them enough money and that does not provide them adequate health care. But don't assume that people are just laying up and not working. Now, that's exactly what the GOP tried to sell us with these new work requirements, like with the cuts that are coming to Medicaid. They tried to sell that as, well, we just got work requirements because well-able-bodied people need to be working. And they do. And I've shown you in previous videos that 90% of them do work. And then they also try to sell as, well, they give these benefits to undocumented immigrants. Well, Medicaid, no, because the only care that undocumented immigrants can get through Medicaid is emergency care. That's per federal law. So I wanted to throw that in because they try to build this profile like Ronald Reagan did decades ago about the welfare queen who was a Black woman. So they're trying to just manipulate the public by making you think that these are just lazy people who don't do anything. That's not what the data shows. Officials from several state offices and agencies have issued warnings in recent days that large swaths of people may lose benefits from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, by November due to an inability to access federal funds. In other words, the states can't get to the federal funds because the federal funds are being held as a result of the shutdown. And that sort of goes back to the big ugly bill, which goes back to Project 2025. Instituted in 1939, SNAP provides food assistance to lower-income families to supplement their grocery budget to maintain adequate nutrition and health. First distributed as food stamps, it changed to a debit card-like system years ago. New Jersey, Texas, Illinois, Oklahoma, California, Pennsylvania, New York, Missouri, and Minnesota are among the states where officials have issued warnings in recent days. Some have said November SNAP benefits will be disrupted or not issued at all if the shutdown continues past October 27th. That's 3 days from now. Others, including Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, Illinois, have outright said that November benefits will not be paid. You're talking about millions and millions of vulnerable families, of hungry families that are not going to have access to these programs because of this shutdown, Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins warned last week. Well, Brooke, why doesn't the Trump administration do what is necessary to protect those people as well as the folks who are on the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, and who don't want their premiums skyrocketing because you won't work a deal out? And by the way, every one of the government officials and Congress people and so on, they're getting paid. I'm talking about the Congress people particularly. Now, I know a lot of the government employees, right? The federal bureaucracy, some of them are not getting paid. Now, you're seeing some of them actually in food lines, standing in line to get food, and they're federal employees because the Trump administration won't do the right thing, trying to protect that big, ugly bill and stay true to that Project 2025 mandate. SNAP benefits are fully funded by the federal government, though the Republican-led One Big Beautiful Bill has laid out a plan for some states to begin sharing a portion of the cost starting in the 2028 fiscal year. See there? The move sparked widespread criticism from Democrats and advocacy groups, and the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office projected that it would decrease household resources for lower-income families. The bill's passing in July marked the largest cut to the U.S. safety net in decades. Under SNAP, supplemental funds for food and groceries are distributed through an electronic benefits transfer, or EBT, card each month. The amount allotted depends largely on household income, and all eligible recipients have to meet a certain low-income threshold informed by federal poverty guidelines. More than 42 million people receive SNAP benefits. 42, that's a little bit over 10% of the population. And again, a disproportionate percentage of them are Black. So think about the children. And that's according to government data from August. In 2024, about 12.3% of U.S. residents received them. SNAP benefits are unlikely to cover a household's entire monthly budget, though they certainly make a big difference for lower-income families. The average SNAP benefit in fiscal year 2023 was around $332 a month per household, or $177 per person, the USDA Food and Nutrition Service said earlier this year. For an average SNAP recipient, that is less than $6 in food assistance per day. And now that is in jeopardy of being cut. SNAP is the largest and most effective hunger prevention program in the country. Now, we dealt with the Trump administration's cut of foreign aid to all kinds of programs, life-saving programs, hungry prevention programs, but that was foreign. I guess it didn't matter then. Well, now we're talking about the largest, let's read it again, the largest and most effective hunger prevention program in the country. Barbara C. Gwynn, the New York State Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance Commissioner, said in a release, to permit monthly benefits to halt would be unprecedented and have an immediate and devastating impact, she added. Food prices in the United States, and this is another issue, despite Trump saying food prices have decreased, it's not true. Food prices in the United States have been rising faster than the pace of overall inflation, whether at the supermarket or in restaurants, according to the Consumer Price Index released by the USDA Economic Research Service. I remember just about a week or two ago, my wife bought groceries and she bought, I think, what she needed to make a roast, beef, in other words. When I looked at the price, my eyes bulged. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know it was that bad. I didn't know that the cost of beef had increased that much. And we know there's talk now of Trump buying beef from, I believe, Argentina. And that has cattle farmers just rising up. One of the largest constituents for Trump in the country. The country is just really in a really nasty place right now. In 2025, overall food prices are anticipated to rise faster than the historical average rate of growth, the CPI projected in September. The CPI for all food increased 0.4% from July to August 2025, and food prices in August 2025 were 3.2% higher than in August 2024. Food insecurity in the country has also been on the rise. And that is where people are not necessarily going hungry, but they really oftentimes don't know where the next meal is coming from. Sometimes they're eating just stuff they buy from a convenience store for dinner, or they're getting their primary meals from school or from, food banks and places like that. It's awful. It's been on the rise. This is not, some of you voted, I've heard you say, some of you voted for Trump because of the economy. Although the economy was doing very well under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Every time I would hear that, I scratch my head. But you still said that was the reason you voted for Trump. Well, the economy has gotten worse. The economy has gotten worse. Even today, inflation was at 3%. Just when Biden left office, it was below 3%. Anecdotally, U.S. families appear to be feeling the uptick in prices in a survey conducted by Pew Research earlier this year. 9 in 10 respondents said that healthy food has become more expensive for them, and nearly 70% said they feel it has made it more difficult for them to eat healthy. So let's go back to the picture I had up in the beginning. This family will disproportionately, this type of family, Black with children and single mother, and not everybody receiving SNAP benefits are single mothers or even women. There are some men. But this profile will get hit the hardest. Now, when you look at this picture, once again, do not assume that this woman in this picture, although this is an AI-generated picture, don't assume the women that she represents are not working. That would be an incorrect assumption. These women are working hard. Okay, they're working hard. So don't make that assumption, because then that could harden your heart and say, well, okay, then they need to go hungry. The Bible says if they don't work, they don't eat. Again, many of these people are working. The Kaiser Family Foundation, KFF, again, published a report that showed like 80 to 90% of people on Medicaid, for example, work. And the ones who don't have a waiver because they're either disabled or they're caring for a sick relative, there's some reason why they're not working. And again, undocumented immigrants cannot receive at least Medicaid except for emergency situations. And isn't that just being compassionate and practical? If an undocumented immigrant is in the country and they suffer some emergency, what are we going to do? That's crazy. And the people advising Trump, they're supposed to be Christian people, and they know what the Bible says about strangers in our country, the aliens, the migrants in our country. We ought to treat them justly. And at a minimum, that would include providing them emergency health care at a minimum. All right, so we're getting hit the hardest. And I knew we would. I told you we would. But the thing, I guess, that gives me hope is about a year from now, hopefully, and there's some early voting going on now, by the way, but about a year from now, we'll have the midterms. Hopefully, we'll have the midterms. There are rumors, all kind of rumors, that we may not even get the opportunity to vote. And if we do, it's going to be rigged inside and out, outside and in. Still, don't let any of that discourage you from being prepared, being registered, helping your girlfriends get registered, helping your homies get registered, helping your church members get registered, helping your sorors, your fraternity brothers, helping the dudes on the street corners your coworkers, your friends, your neighbors, family members, get registered to vote now. Don't wait a week or two before the election because they got all this stuff rigged. I can tell you that now. And let's step up and try to do our part to take back the country from this regime. And again, that is praying and assuming that we will have elections a year from now. All right, I'm Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video. And remember, stay woke.